Hi, and welcome to Focal Point After Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Welcome to the last segment, 888-589-8840. I've got a story here about how the census faked the 2012 election jobs report. This is at the New York Post, piece by John Cradell. And it's an expose of how the Census Bureau cooked the books when it came to the employment numbers in August and September of 2012. This is in the run-up to the election. Remember, we have already seen that the IRS suppressed the vote by harassing the Tea Party, kept them from organizing, kept them from fundraising, depressed the vote, suppressed the vote. Number two, we saw that President Obama was elected based on fraud. He made a fraudulent promise. If you like your insurance, you can keep it. I've got a story here in the stack by Andy McCarthy, used to be a federal prosecutor, and I won't go into the details because it doesn't matter that much. But Andy McCarthy says, look, what the president did with this false promise is he committed fraud. That if the operator of a private insurance company had made those kind of promises about the product that would be available, about what it would cost, about how it could not be taken away from you and would not be taken away from you, and then you found out that none of that was true, you would go to prison for 20 years. He said, look, the Department of Justice takes a very dim view of fraud. They prosecute that. We talked yesterday about violations of the regulations for the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and how President Obama, with these fraudulent promises, broke all sorts of laws and rules of the FTC. Now this is Department of Justice and their rules for fraud. Andy McCarthy knows all about it. He reads, he quotes from the segments of the law and all that kind of thing. He would be prosecuted and be on his way to prison like Bernie Madoff if President Obama had done this. Yet he got elected on the basis of fraud. He lied to the American people in order to get their vote. That's fraud. So his election was illegitimate in my mind. James Taranto, Wall Street Journal, says he ought to have an asterisk by his name because he is not a legitimately elected president. He got elected by suppressing the vote, IRS. He got elected by committing fraud on the American people. And then now we see another element of fraud is that the census faked the job numbers to make them look better than they actually were back in the run-up to the election. In the home stretch of the 2012 presidential campaign from August to September, the unemployment rate fell sharply, raising eyebrows from Wall Street to Washington. The decline from 8.1% in August to 7.8% in September might not have been all it seemed. The numbers, according to a reliable source, were manipulated, and the Census Bureau, which does the unemployment survey, knew it. Now, the way this works, the Bureau of Labor apparently outsources to the Census Bureau the collection of employment information. They want some kind of 90% success rate for interviews. Well, the Census Bureau couldn't get hold of 90%. They weren't hitting their 90% ratio. So the Census Bureau told their employees, one of these guys is named Buckman, Julius Buckman. He's the one that's come forward and blown the whistle on this. He said, look, my superiors told me to make up these interviews. These are people above me in the food chain. The census employee caught faking the results as Julius Buckman. According to confidential census documents obtained by the Post, Buckman told me in an interview this past weekend that he was told to make up information by the higher-ups at the census. So he just invented these people. He invented interviews with them. He gave them jobs when they were fictitious people that did not even exist. Those numbers get tabulated as if they were real people, and so the employment numbers came down. It was a pretty dramatic drop, and now we discover that the whole thing was faked. It was bogus. And the author of this piece, John Cradell, says, I suspected that this turnover, this is back to the Census Bureau. If you don't remember this, they were firing people all the time. These temporary workers, they'd fire them. Then they'd rehire them. Then they'd fire them again. Then they'd rehire them. Why were they doing that? According to John Cradell, they were trying to boost the job creation rate for Obama. I suspected, he says, that this turnover of employees was being done purposely to boost the number of new jobs being reported each month. So President Obama, another evidence of the illegitimacy of his election. Now, one more soundbite before we go to the phones, 888-589-8840, clip number 2. This is just a soundbite, but this is President Obama talking to his followers last night, Organizing for America, OFA, and the takeaway here isn't even so much what President Obama says. I want you to listen to the sound of his voice. Listen to the tone of his voice. Listen to the energy or lack of energy in his voice. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're listening to a man that is toast, and he knows he's toast. Let's listen. President Obama talking to the faithful last night. And by the way, a lot of his own people couldn't get on this conference call because, you guessed it, the website wasn't functioning. Let's listen.
Obviously right now we're talking about healthcare, and there's, as John mentioned, there's been a lot of misinformation, and frankly, there have been problems with the website that have, I think, created and fed a lot of this misinformation, and but that still leaves a whole lot of people that we've got to sign up over the next several months, and obviously, this has been hampered by healthcare.gov and the fact that eventually it's going to be the easiest place to shop for healthcare, but because of the problems in this website, that has made it tougher for folks who are very interested to enroll. We know there are about 12 million people who visited the site, and a whole bunch of them are probably going to want to get healthcare, but they've got to do so once we finally get the website up and running. Now, the good news is it's getting better every single week, and I am confident that by the end of this month, it's going to be functioning for the vast majority of folks, but we're still going to have to make sure that we don't use the website alone to sign people up.
So President Obama is saying, look, we're not going to be able to count on this website. It's going to get better every day, but there's no way in the world we're going to be able to count on this website. I had a story today. I just kind of marked it on my news aggregator, my Feedly. Let me see if I can call that up because it was kind of an amazing headline. I didn't have actually time to read it. Let me see if I can grab it. And it was to the effect that about 30 to 40%, here we go. Roughly 30 to 40% of the Obamacare exchange system still needs to be built, including the payment system. 30 to 40% of this website hasn't even been built yet. This is according to somebody from CNS. This is the Center for Medicaid and Medicare. This is the guy that's running the outfit, that they're managing this whole healthcare thing. 30 to 40% of this website, ladies and gentlemen, has not even been built. And the payment system hasn't been built. So people have no way to pay for a product that they want. It's like you throw something in your shopping cart at Amazon, you get to checkout, and they have no way to process your credit card. You have no way to pay for it. It's in your cart, but it's useless to you because you can't pay for it. So these people, and that's why I was always suspicious, this 106,000 that enrolled in Obamacare, well, those are people that had picked a plan, but they have not paid for a plan. And if they don't pay for a plan by December 15, they can't just pick a plan. They got to pick a plan, and they've got to pay for it by December 15, or they will be uninsured as of January 1. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a Category 6 typhoon that's bearing down on the United States, and it's going to make landfall on January 1. You are literally going to have millions and millions and millions of Americans who have no insurance. Why? Because of President Obama, and they cannot buy insurance. It's not physically, technologically possible for them to buy insurance. Why? Because of President Obama. Ladies and gentlemen, President Obama is going to cause the rate of the uninsured in America to go absolutely through the ceiling. It's going to go into orbit, and it will be his doing. It's his Obamacare. It is his bill. People won't have insurance because he's knocked them off insurance. They won't be able to get it because he won't let them buy it. I mean, the catastrophe here it's just hard to over-exaggerate. And you just heard that in his voice. This guy's toast, and he knows it. Now, here is clip 6. Let's grab this clip. Now, we don't have time for that, do we? That's Jay Carney. Why don't we play clip 7? This is Chuck Todd. Now, there's two ways. Well, let's play the Chuck Todd clip, and I'll tell you what it means after we get back. Chuck Todd, clip 7.
I think the 80%, I have to say, you got to say at least they're learning some lesson here, which is lower the bar.
Yeah.
Because they know it's not going to run perfectly on November 30th. And if you promised a perfect website, then you would have lazy media and some in the opposition party who would just say, aha, the website took, look at, there's the hourglass, there's the hourglass, it's circling. You got to lower the bar a little bit.
Now, what Chuck Todd is talking about is the administration said, okay, our goal is not for 100% of the people that come to the website to actually be able to buy insurance. Our goal is to have 80% of the people who come to the website be able to buy insurance. They are lowering the bar. You know, there's two ways you can achieve your goals. One is to improve your performance, and number two is to lower your standards. Now, when I go out and play golf, you know, if my goal is to shoot 75, I may or may not make that goal. So why don't I just lower my standard? My goal is to break 100. Now that I can probably do. So I can come home and say, hey, I hit my goal. I achieved my goal. I set a goal and I hit it. The way you do it is just lower it to the point where it is virtually meaningless. Now for the other guys on my, on my production team, 100 actually would be a pretty good score for them. So they may actually be happy with that. Now here is a blessing for the rest of your day. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times in every way. May the Lord be with you all. See you back here tomorrow.